If I could have everyone's attention, we'll get the program started. Ladies and gentlemen, we're extremely happy that everyone could join us this evening. We have many former student athletes back with us for the first time in a while, and we're pleased that they're able to see the growth of the campus, and a lot of those folks with us have never even been into Carter Hall, so we're extremely happy they're with us this evening. I would like to take this time before we get started to thank the Varsity Club for their kind contributions for the program this evening. As we all know, the Varsity Club's an instrumental part of our athletic program. We couldn't get it done without them. When our Hall of Fame selection committee meets, we discuss the candidates and want to make sure that the individuals and teams selected have separated themselves from others. I know that this class this evening has separated themselves from the rest. As their names and pictures will adorn the walls of the PAC, our current student athletes, recruits, and fans will know their stories and realize quickly how this group has been awarded this prestigious honor and why they deserve this honor. Tonight, we are recognizing the elite of USI athletics. We are honoring a group of young men who in 1995 won the only team national championship in USI history and did so by overcoming an insurmountable deficit in front of a national television audience. We are honoring two cross-country student athletes, one who traveled a great distance to the USI campus and delivered an individual national championship, and another whose feat of 4 consecutive GOVC cross-country championships may never be matched again. Tonight we are honoring a men's basketball student athlete who towered over the opposition on his way to the GOVC Player of the Year award and won over the fans at USI with his generosity and heart. We honor a women's basketball student athlete who was a presidential scholar and led her team to 100 wins in 4 seasons while becoming one of the few student athletes in women's basketball history to earn all GOVC honors 4 consecutive years. We also honor her coach, who took the women's basketball program to unprecedented heights, including a perfect 20-0 GOVC season, but more importantly, became one of the true ambassadors for women's athletics in the region. Her fingerprints are on many things we still do in the department 10 years after her departure. And lastly, we honor a coach and administrator who coached 4 different sports during his 33 years of service at USI, but his true impact was felt by the countless student athletes he advised, he mentored, he taught. His passion for academic and athletic balance was evident in everything he did. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to begin the proceedings tonight as we recognize the USI Athletics Hall of Fame class of 2009. At this time, I would like to introduce our cross-country and track coach, Mike Hilliard, who will say a few words about Ellie Rono, who could not be with us this evening. Coach Hilliard.
First, a little geography. It's 8,020 miles from Eldoret, Kenya to Evansville, Indiana. In 1996, when Bill Stegemoller picked Ellie Rono up from the Evansville airport, he was wearing a gray suit and he was carrying 1 suitcase. In that suitcase, he had 1 pair of running shorts, he had 1 pair of running shoes that were tattered and worn out and 2 sizes too big for his size 13 feet. He also had 1 extra pair of pants, a running singlet, and 1 extra shirt. And that's everything that Ellie Rono came to the University of Southern Indiana with. The first week that he was there, Ellie ran with the boys. Some of those guys are in this room tonight. Kyle Kaiser, Jason Hiley, Rob Kirby. And he ran with the guys for a week. And we really didn't know how special he was, because we really hadn't seen anything out of Ellie yet. Well, that lasted about 1 week. And once Ellie knew his way around the west side, we didn't see him on too many runs anymore. He would start with the guys, and then he would check out, and he'd pretty much be on his own until we got back to the pack about 5 or 10 minutes after him. And that's kind of the way it was. After that second week, we knew Ellie was the real deal, and we knew that he wasn't going to follow too many people around too often. I want to share just a few glimpses into you know, Ellie's impact and the interaction he had with the guys on the team, rather than talk about his stats, because they're pretty well known and they're here on the board, and you can read about all of this. But I want to tell you a little bit about Ellie the person, and the experience that he had when he first came here. I recall a story. I believe it was Kyle Kaiser and Rob Kirby and a few other guys on the team, some of Stegemoller's other boys, took Ellie to Schnucks the first week that he was there. Now, he had never been in a grocery store. He opened up a crate of eggs and asked the guys how much for one egg. He was worried about how expensive things were, and he was wanting to buy one egg. So, of course, they explained to him that's not how things work, and he picked up on things pretty quick. It wasn't too long before he wasn't grocery shopping at all, and he was eating McDonald's 2 times a day. It's phenomenal that he ran as well as he did on McDonald's, but I'll tell you, when you run 120 miles a week, which he did every week, you can pretty much burn off anything that you eat. Well, later that week, some of these same boys introduced Ellie Rono to Hooters. Is this true, Hiley? Because you know you can't get good buffalo wings in Eldoret, Kenya, right? So they wanted to have this experience. And Ellie's 2 words to surmise this trip to Hooters was very nice. And I'm sure he was talking about the wings. Another good story about Ellie. He once heard Brian Elpers, another guy on the team, talking about being chased by a dog. And everyone who knows Brian knows that he was terrified of dogs, absolutely terrified. And Ellie looked at Brian and could see his fear, and he said, "Dog is not a problem. In Kenya, rhino is a problem." And so it wasn't too much longer after this, Ellie was running out towards St. Philip's. And he was bit square on the butt by a Weimaraner. Now, if you don't know what a Weimaraner is, it's not a drunk German stumbling out of Weinzappels. It's a dog. It's a dog breed, okay? And this Weimaraner got a good chunk out of him. And Ellie runs back to the pack building, and he finds Bill, and he says, "Bill, I get a gun and I kill that dog." And Bill says, "Well, darn it, you just can't go shoot the dog." And that was the end of that. But I don't think Rono ran out to St. Philip's too much more after that. In the winter of 1998, the NCAA Division I and Division II indoor championships were both held concurrently at the RCA Dome in Indianapolis. Ellie won the Division II 5,000-meter title, and Brad Hauser from Stanford won the Division I race. After Hauser won his race, Ellie went up and shook his hand, very cordial, and congratulated him. And then he told him, "I ran faster than you today. Today, I would have beaten you." In his first 2 years at USI, Ellie Rono won 3 national titles, 2 GLVC titles in cross country, and he won the Penn Relays 10,000 meters, which was a very special night in the history of our program because Kyle Kaiser, who's in the back row, won the 10,000 meters at the Drake Relays on the same night. Very special for Coach Bill Stegemoller, certainly, to bring such a talent as Ellie here from Kenya, and then the other great talent he had at the same time was from 3 miles away at Mater Dei. Lost my place here. Ellie put USI distance running back on the national map, and you're going to hear in a few minutes from another person who put USI on the national map initially under the guidance of Hall of Famer Bill Stegemoller. If Ellie were here tonight, he would want to thank first his coach, Bill Stegemoller, and his teammates, and certainly thank all of the University of Southern Indiana and the University of Southern Indiana community for giving him such a wonderful opportunity. It's certainly my pleasure to accept his Hall of Fame award on his behalf tonight. Thank you.
At this time, I would like to introduce Mr. Ray Simmons, our Sports Information Director here at USI, who will introduce our next inductee.
Good evening. I guess it's a true test of longevity in an athletic department when they turn to me when I'm about the only one around from the athletic department who actually met our next inductee. Our next inductee, we can truly say he towered over the opposition. Not only that, during my first year when I met him initially, he is the only man that I've ever known that he can sit in a chair and look me in the eye. John Hollenden, again, is a legend in USI basketball history. John towered over the opposition at 7 foot 6 inches tall. He helped USI to a pair of GLVC championships and back-to-back NCAA tournament appearances. He is the all-time leader in blocks at USI with 365 in just 2 seasons. He also set the single-season record with 202 blocks. So anytime you came into the lane, the ball was going to get rejected out of there. Hollenden, who still ranks in the top 20 at USI in rebounds, also was the GLVC Player of the Year. He also was drafted by the Dallas Mavericks in the 10th round in 1981, but he never saw that pro career after suffering a crippling accident. John passed away in 1992. John also was known at the PAC after his accident as the PA announcer at USI. He was the voice of the Eagles for many years. Now it is my privilege to introduce his sister, Margaret Getty, to accept John's induction award.
Thank you, Ray. I'm actually very proud to be here tonight to be able to accept this award on behalf of my brother. I know that his time that he spent here at USI was very special for him. He loved being here. He loved playing basketball here. He made a lot of good friends here. I also know there were so many people here at the university that were very supportive and encouraging to John both before and after his accident. I know if John were here, he'd probably like for me to thank just absolutely everyone. Anybody who knew John knew that he was more concerned with somebody else. He didn't want anyone to make a fuss for him. So I'd just quickly like to name or recognize a few folks, starting first with our mom and dad, who were quite literally always there for us, or for him. I'd like to thank his coaches, Coach Boltinghouse, who was here during those years, all of his teammates, all the people in the athletic department. I know he would want me to express his appreciation for everything that everyone did for him while he was here. And I'd like to thank the committee for choosing to honor John in this way. I know this would just mean the world to him. So for John, to all of you, thank you so very, very much.
This time I'd like to bring Coach Hilliard back up to introduce our next inductee. Coach Hilliard.
Let me begin first by saying that I certainly consider it an honor and a privilege to introduce to you my good friend Jim Nolan tonight. I owe so much to you, Jim, and I'm thankful that I have an opportunity here tonight to thank you properly. First, for helping to establish this attitude and expectation of excellence that our athletes today still strive to uphold. 4 straight GLVC individual cross-country titles. Here we are 25 years later, and no one has come close to matching this feat. Second, for inspiring my interests, first as a young athlete and then as a coach, I can recall as a young middle schooler cutting out paper clippings of Jim winning the Arts Festa River Run, winning the Indianapolis Mini Marathon, which he did twice. And third, for helping Tammy to have all of these babies that have grown up to be these handsome young men now that kept her so busy and so occupied that she didn't have time to coach the women's cross-country team here anymore, which afforded me an opportunity to become a coach here. So Jim, thanks a lot. Tammy, thank you. Jim's competitors knew his strategy. There was only one way to run a race in his mind, and that was all out from the gun. If you were going to beat him, then you were going to bleed from the ears, and you were going to die 1,000 horrible deaths in the process. It wasn't common for him to run the first mile of a 5 or 6 mile race in 4 minutes and 15 seconds. A suicide pace that most either could not or wouldn't dare to try and follow. Now, it didn't always work, but it must have worked pretty often, Jim, or we wouldn't be here tonight talking about you. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my special privilege to introduce to you tonight the best cross-country runner in the history of the Great Lakes Valley Conference, Mr. James Nolan.
That picture looks different. First of all, I want to give God all the glory. Through him, everything is possible. Second, I do want to thank the selection committee. It's an honor to be inducted at this time with these great athletes and great coaches here tonight. I feel very humble. Third, I do want to thank, in the history, I think the supporters of the program. When we first started, Steggy had a knack of getting people out to the races. He always, I don't know how he did it, bugged him to death, I believe, but we always had a big crowd out at the race. But there was a few that went beyond that, asked us over for cookouts, took us to their houses to swim, came and ran with us. I mean, that meant so much to us to know that the community was behind us too. And a few of those guys are here tonight too, and I do appreciate that. Third, I do want to thank my teammates. I don't know if people realize how competitive it was at that time with our group. My freshman year, we were ranked in the top 15. We had 5 freshmen, 2 sophomores. The sophomore year, we were ranked in the top 10 nationally. My junior and senior year, we were in the top 3 nationally. Steggy had us going right from the word start. He didn't settle for just regional titles. He wanted a national title bad. But with that caliber of runners that he had pushing every day, knowing that, I mean, it was just a race out there at every practice, how they kept pushing us harder and harder. And then yet, Bill, who would run with us all the time too, knew when to back off. But my teammates pushing me like they did made the runner that I am today. Because I knew in the race, if I'd slow down, they were going to beat me. So this award and honor goes to them as much as it goes to me. I do want to talk about Bill a little bit. Bill was a friend. And a second dad. He meant a lot to me. I wish he could be here today. But he did tell me one time at a race, this is before regionals, I remember this at my sophomore year, he pulled me aside. And he said, Jim, there's a time in the race where it's going to come to where everybody's going to be hurting. And you can either push through it and go and get the rewards, or you can settle for second. And you know, that's how Bill lived his life. He lived it to the fullest. He pushed himself all the time. And I'm trying to install that in my life too. Sorry about that. But anyway, I do want to thank all the guys that came out tonight to help support me. And thank you all too, and God bless.
This time I'd like to introduce Missy Groban, who will introduce our next inductee. Missy.
It's an honor to be here tonight to introduce not only a teammate of mine, but a best friend of mine. Someone that not only influenced my life, but the people around her. She did that by her passion, her hard work, her commitment, and her selflessness. I'll never forget the first time we met. It was an open gym, and Coach Dugan had just, gave this senior speech. And those of you, everybody laugh because, you know it. How what you do determines, how far your team goes. Then she looked at us and goes, all the freshmen should be here tonight at open gym, and including Eileen Weber. And we were all like, yay, the only freshman that hasn't been here all season or all summer. All we've heard about was the 57 points or however many she scored in a game, and the rest of us were thinking, great, fresh meat of freshmen coming in. But, we sit back and we kind of laugh back and forth, and, but besides hearing about those 57 points and all that other stuff, we decided that night we were gonna run the upperclassmen against the younger group. That was the last time we ran the upperclassmen against the younger group. The thing I learned that night was that besides her going out and not being there, was that, she was out someplace else working hard, fulfilling commitments, and it wasn't in the Pack Arena where the rest of us were. It's her hard work, her dedication, commitment, passion, and loyalty, and her selflessness that makes her one of a kind. Not only did she do it on the court, but in the classroom as well. For her to take classes that I can't even pronounce, let alone carry the books. And now she's carried that over to her job, and she has those things in her life. She's making those still around her better today than that we were several years ago. Whether it's sitting in a meeting in Asia or London, or sitting here in Evansville, Indiana, rocking 2 kids and reading them a book, everyone looks up to her with the utmost respect and integrity. And it is my honor to introduce Miss Eileen Weber.
Wow. It's very much an honor to be here tonight. I kind of look back when John Mark gave me the call and said you're going to be inducted in the Hall of Fame. It really made me stop and think and reflect back on the years at USI. And to think, when I was in high school, I didn't even think of playing basketball in college. My parents raised me to think that, you got to make sure that you're going to be successful in life, and school always comes first. Played athletics, enjoyed athletics, and by great fortune I was able to attend USI to play 4 years of basketball, probably the most successful in women's basketball history here at USI. And I did that by attending here on a Presidential Scholar. And it was actually Dr. Barnett, when I came for Presidential Scholar orientation. And I was so nervous, how in the world am I going to be able to carry a load of labs and classes and still play basketball? And it all worked out. The coaching staff was always great, always made sure that we got to class, made sure that we were successful both on and off the court. I'd really like to thank as well tonight the varsity club. Stepping onto campus for the first time, I fell in love with it. Beautiful campus, but more importantly, it was a family environment. Varsity club was always there to support us, fan base, brought us over to their house for dinners, took care of us on road trips, and it was just like having a very, very large family always around. Also kind of special to me tonight, my sister is here, my oldest sister. One of the reasons why I chose USI is because at the time my sister, she works for Bristol Myers. She lived in Evansville. I committed to USI in the fall. By spring, she had to move to New York with her job. I graduated in May. She moved back in July. So never got to see me play in college, but that's okay. It's great that she's here tonight. We've grown closer since she's moved back, and it's just an honor to have her living in the same town again. I also like to thank all my teammates. Basketball truly is a team sport. They made me better. They pushed me. We had great fun doing it. I think we love to hate each other sometimes, but nonetheless, we were successful and we made each other better, and appreciate everything that everyone's done for me and to get me to that position. Also, I'd like to thank the coaching staff. It was said earlier tonight that Coach Dugan definitely left her mark on USI. She really did. I feel as though I attended USI just at the right time. We took a program from mediocre record. Every year we got better. My freshman year we made our first NCAA appearance. By my junior year we were national finalists. My senior year we were ranked #1 for about 6 weeks. So it was just an outstanding time, and a great credit to the coaching staff for getting us there. So again, thanks to everyone. It's very much an honor to be in the USI Hall of Fame, and congratulations to all the other inductees as well. Thank you.
At this time, I would like to bring forward the members of the 1995 Men's Basketball Championship team. If they could come forward here, I'd appreciate it. We appreciate Ken Troutman and Joel Thomas and Brian Hebner and Mark Hostetter being here with us tonight, and then assistant coach Rick Curtis. I think it's a true testament to this team, as Coach I'm sure will allude to in a minute. I think we have 5 people associated with this team that are coaching basketball games tonight or tomorrow night. And again, I appreciate the young men who were able to make it tonight. And at this time, I'd like to introduce now Hall of Famer Coach Rick Curtis.
Thank you. Thank you very much. First of all, I'd like to congratulate all the inductees tonight. First of all, Chance Dugan, my wife just walked in, but I want to tell you how hot you look tonight. And I want to tell you the other thing. I just texted Coach Pearl, and he said, man, I am single, I'm available, and he wanted you to know that. The other guy I have to talk about a little bit is Jim Brown, the other inductee. Congratulations. He was also our academic advisor, besides being a tremendous golf coach. And I can still tell you, Jim, I use that set in the front row. Make sure that you bring your books, introduce your name to the teacher, and all that. And believe me, that is very, very important for us to be very successful, and he did a terrific job. And congratulations to all of you. A little bit about each one of these guys that are here, and I know the rest of them, and because of Coach Pearl, he couldn't be here tonight. Stan Gerard could not be here tonight. Chad Gilbert, numerous guys are coaching. It's kind of rubbed off on them to be involved in a wonderful game, and it all started right here at the University of Southern Indiana. But to talk a little bit about Ken Troutman. Ken practiced with the team, was a hard worker, gave his every day hardest to be a terrific basketball player and help to win something awful special. Ken, we want to thank you for not hurting anybody so we could get to the national championship. You know, Joel Thomas, I promise you this, a young man right now who worked his tail off. He was Jumping Joel Thomas, a young man that would never say no to anyone, and he was one of those guys that could just, you know, undersized post guy, had played that all his life and did a terrific job, and we're very thankful that he was involved. And you know, the guy down on the end, I'm glad he didn't quit the basketball team, because, you know, I can still remember there's a bus ride home one night when two of the other point guards were plotting a way to get rid of Mark Hostetter. And I'm not just talking about kick him off the bus. It was out of here so they could start. And I want to thank Mark for not just taking off and going home. And then the guy on the end here still says he's the best two guard that's ever played here. I got a guy right now, it's not too bad. I keep telling him that. But Flying Brian Hebner, I promise you this, folks, it was an honor to be around him. I want to thank the administration that was here at that time, Dr. Bennett, Dr. Bertram, you know, Bruce Baker, all the people who are involved in bringing Coach Pearl and myself here to the University of Southern Indiana. We were blessed to come to a very special place, and it's all because of you that we had an opportunity to be. It's a group thing. We had a heart and a desire to be very, very good, but it wouldn't have happened without all of you. And we want to thank your parents, all of your guys' parents. Were so close to us. It's just awful special, and I'm very honored as assistant coach to be around these guys. Now I want to introduce the best two guard that's ever played at the University of Southern Indiana, Flying Brian Hebner.
Can you hear me? First off, I want to thank all the other inductees. It truly is an honor for you to be honored for your accomplishments. It's something you'll always remember. I was joking with John Mark before that I think I was selected by default to speak tonight, because obviously this is not our whole team. Nobody wants to hear Mark speak because he coached here so much. Ken's too smart. He'll talk over your head probably. Joel's too crazy. So I guess I was the one that was left. But then John reminded me that I was a captain on that team, so I guess I qualified to speak tonight. But I'm privileged, obviously, to accept this award on behalf of the team. Like Coach Hurtis mentioned earlier, not everybody could be here. A lot of the guys are following in Coach Hurtis and Coach Pearl's footsteps and the coaches. But it truly was a special basketball team. You know, you hear this cliche a lot about you got to give up, sacrifice for the team, and this team truly sacrificed for each other. A lot of players sacrificed individual glory for the betterment of the team. I got to thank Coach Hurtis personally for recruiting me. I think he called me every day my freshman year at Albany, legally within the rules of the NCAA, to make sure that I was going to come. The 2 years that I played at USI, I got to play for 2 national championships. I don't think I can complain about that, so I want to thank him for that. The guys on the team, like I said, what made this team special, and you know it takes a special team to have a special year, was that we really all got along. I mean, we loved each other. Chad and I loved Mark, even though he played buddy ball with staying on the right side of the court. We still loved Mark. We both know we could have scored more points if he'd reversed the basketball. We loved Ken and Joe. They're both crazy and went maniacs in practice, but they made us better on the scout team. Whether it was Neil taking a charge every time he tried to go down the paint, everybody had a role in that team. Everybody sacrificed for the betterment of the team. Coach Pearl was the ultimate motivator. Coach Hurtis got the players. I mean, it truly was a team effort. And I just want to tell you again, we're thankful. Thank the committee for inducting us into the Hall of Fame. We weren't the most talented team. We weren't the most athletic team, but we were a team, and that's what made this team special. So thank you, and God bless.
This time I'd like to introduce our head women's basketball coach at USI, Mr. Rick Stein, to introduce our next inductee.
Good evening. Just close enough here. I'm excited and honored to introduce to you the next USI Athletics Hall of Fame inductee. Chancellor Dugan arrived at USI in the spring of 1991 with a big first name, a competitive attitude to match it, and an even bigger vision for USI women's basketball. Championships. Championships are what Chancellor promised for the future of USI women's basketball. Chance didn't care that the program was coming off a 3-25 season and a last place finish at the Great Lakes Valley Conference before she arrived. All she cared to talk about was where the program was going and how soon could we get it there. If I remember correctly, Chancellor not only said that we would compete for championships, she said we would compete for the national championship. As we all look back to that first press conference, how many people could have imagined the impact that Chancellor would make and how quickly it would come? Chancellor raised the bar, not only for women's basketball here at USI, but for the whole Great Lakes Valley Conference and the entire Great Lakes region. She took USI women's basketball to a place no women's team in this conference or in the region had ever been before, the national championship game. A championship program is what she promised, and Chancellor delivered, quickly. As you can see in the program and on the screen, Chance's numbers do speak for themselves. But her overall dedication and commitment to USI women's basketball, and most importantly to every one of her players, as well as coaches, can still be felt today. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce to you the newest member of the USI Athletics Hall of Fame, my mentor and friend, Chancellor Dugan. Get this up.
Oh, man. First of all, that was really tough to follow. Just not Rick, but thank you so much, Rick, but everybody. I mean, everybody's got up here and just really spoke from the heart and, you know, said what USI means to them. And, you know, I've been gone for 10 years. It doesn't seem like that because there's just so much, you know, love and warmth every time I come back to USI. I'd like to congratulate my fellow inductees. You know, Jim Brown was probably one of the first people that I met when I came here, and you know, he was just really great to me, and I appreciate that, Jim. You know, everybody, you know, you go through the whole list, you know, when John Mark calls you, and it's just such a special thing. The coaches that I worked with here at Southern Indiana on my staff, you know, Rick Stein, Kelly Boyd, that first group, and then came Shannon and Missy worked with us, and you know, just very, very special. And you know, they pushed and prodded and made me better every single day. And you know, Dr. Bennett and Dr. Bertram, the killer bees, as Bruce used to call them. And you know, they were there, you know, every step of the way. You know, to Betty and Dr. Rice, you know, the twins and Kathy Lauk and LP, we all went over to Dr. Rice's house and spent the night, you know, with Betty. You know, I mean, we thought it was what you did. And, you know, and, you know, Dr. Rice would come down and Annette and Jeanette would just grill him. I mean, just start talking, you know, their country crazy talk, and you know, asking him, you know, all kinds of questions like why he wanted to be university president, how he got to be university president, and I'm over there going, oh my gosh, I'm going to be here 1 year and that's it. But and then to the smiling faces that I saw every day when I got off that elevator, starting with Joni and ending with Sandy, and you know, just every day when I came up there and, you know, seeing Lois, you know, it was a family. It really was, and you know, the players you know, there's no way that I'd be standing up here without the players that are in this room and some that are doing great things coaching right now. And, you know, I thank you guys. You know, to my mom and dad, you know, my mom really wanted to be here tonight. She's living with me down in Florida, 81, doing great, but it was kind of a tight turnaround since I do have a game tomorrow. But she sends her love. And I think last of all, two things. To the coaches, the other coaches that were on the staff when I was here, just raise the bar, you know, for me. Every day, you know, going in and talking to Rick Curtis and talking to Bruce and talking to Jim, going and talking to Ruth Waller, going and talking to Dr. Brzett and Mike Gady and Beth Watson. You know, just being surrounded by quality people. You know, and then you know, JM came and Mr. Newton, or who I call Dr. No, because he told me no on everything. And then I'd walk out of the office and he goes, if you can pay for it, you can get it. I'm like, all right, I'll get it. But, you know, the thing that brings it all together and the thing that is special, so special to me and what makes this place special, and I think everyone in this room will agree, is the varsity club. You guys are, without a doubt, the most special booster organization that I've ever been a part of. That there's so many great relationships in this room that is still today. And we never lost a game. The referees cheated us. You know, something happened. You know, we never lost a game though. And you guys are the reason that I made it. I just wanted to come back and be here tonight to be honored with my fellow inductees, and thank you so much. I enjoyed immensely my 8 years here and think back of those days often. Thank you very much.
At this time, to introduce our final inductee of the evening is Mr. Brad Brown.
Let me start by saying I'm going to apologize because when I got the email it said 2 or 3 minutes. I'm glad that the inductees saved me a little time here. So let me start by saying thank you to the University Varsity Club and especially the Athletic Hall of Fame Selection Committee. Congratulations as well to all of the inductees. Being inducted in the USI Athletic Hall of Fame is a great honor, and all of you are to be congratulated on this accomplishment. Personally, I would like to say thanks for bestowing this honor on my dad. I not only applaud your selection, but I agree with it as well. I can't let this opportunity go by without letting you all in on a little secret, a secret mainly only known to my family. While being inducted into the USI Hall of Fame is a great honor, my dad has always thought he was a legend. And if you don't believe it, just ask him. And I think the legend status dates back way to his high school days when he once scored 32 points in a high school basketball game. And that was before, as he says, the three-point line existed. As you can imagine, I've heard this story a number of times, and it gets better every time he tells it. And I've always told him that he's a legend in his own mind. Jim Brown is known to most in this room and throughout the USI community as simply as JB. JB started teaching and coaching at USI in 1970 when it was Indiana State University Evansville, I Sue. My sister and I used to have shirts that said I Sue on them, and everywhere we went, what kind of school is that? So I'm really glad it's the University of Southern Indiana now. From the start, I honestly don't know who had a better time, him or I. As you can imagine, I loved having all those brothers that I had around, the older brothers. And also, you can imagine, I learned a lot, some of it even good. As he used to say before every road trip that I was allowed to go on, Brad, remember, whatever happens on the road stays on the road. And before we got home, another little lecture, Brad, remember, your mother doesn't need to know everything. JB has held numerous positions over his more than 30 years here at the university. Among them are assistant basketball coach. He was around when they used to practice in the old Armory, and they used to play in Roberts Stadium in front of about 50 friends and family a night. He started the baseball program and was its first head coach. He also served as sports information director, intramural director, academic advisor for the athletes, and most recently and probably most notably, golf coach for both men and women, starting the women's program in 1995. Obviously, my sister and I didn't see a lot of him, but it was nice when I got older. He took me along on those road trips so I could learn what I learned. As the list states, he has done many things during his years at USI. He showed a genuine interest in the students he taught and the athletes he coached. His teams accumulated many honors at the conference and national levels. However, if you ask him, he would probably say the accomplishment he is most proud of is that the athletes he coached excelled in the classroom and were students first. His teams were consistently at the top or near the top of the teams in cumulative GPA for the university. He coached academics, all-conference athletes, as well as All-American scholars, and he was once quoted as saying, "Our primary goal is to help athletes graduate in their chosen field. We also hope to inspire them to become lifelong learners and to develop the skills necessary to become effective and successful." JB always wanted them all to graduate, and he didn't like it when they left the university without a degree. I can't remember how many former student athletes have come up to JB and thanked him for helping them graduate. They always say if it hadn't been for him, they wouldn't have made it. JB had only a handful of expectations for his student athletes, but not live up to them, and it hit the fan. You better go to class, sit in the front row, and give your best effort. You better be on time because the van left without you. You better have all your equipment because you were not going back. It didn't matter who you were or where you were. You better have emptied your bladder as well because they weren't going to stop unless he had to go himself. JB lived what he preached, as is evidenced by the one time he forgot his baseball uniform on a trip before St. Louis. Mom found the bag in the downstairs bathroom, and knowing that JB was too stubborn to swallow his pride and dropped by the house to pick it up, she rushed to our school, checked my sister and I out, and told us that we were going to take Daddy's uniform. The only thing I remember about the trip was Mom telling Brenda and I to get in the back seat and buckle up. And back then, you didn't really have to buckle up, if you remember that. Because if you were told to buckle up, you know there was going to be some serious speed going on. Well, the next thing I knew, we were in St. Louis. Dad had borrowed some clothes from the opposing team. He was out pitch and batting practice, but we got there in time for him to have his uniform. And as you can imagine, his former players, I don't think they've ever let him live that down. His last expectation was for his student athletes to be ladies and gentlemen at all time. After all, he told them, you're not only representing yourself, but you're representing the university. And finally, my dad and really our entire family have made lasting friendships through the USI family. This university has been a part of our family, and I'm a proud graduate of the university, and it continues to be part of our family, and it will continue as always. This is a great night for my dad and our family, and I'd like to thank the selection committee again for this great honor. I will tell you that this night is a little bittersweet for me, though. Because of this honor, my dad will think now he has the credentials to be the legend in everyone's mind, not just in his mind. The good news is that at least now, I'll have a different story to listen to. I'm very thankful that JB is my dad, and if you can't tell, I'm kind of proud of him. It's my great honor to present the legend himself, my dad, JB.
Thank you, Brad. I couldn't have said that better, and you read it just as I gave it to you. I appreciate you being here and introducing me. It means a lot for me, for you to be here. I certainly appreciate it. Like the other inductees, I would like to thank the varsity club for all they have done for the athletes and athletics at USI. Without you, we would not be where we are. I would like to congratulate the other members inducted into the USI Hall of Fame this evening: Chancellor Elaine, Jim, Ellie, John, and the 1995 National Championship basketball team. It's a pleasure to be part of such an elite group. And I think I better put these things on so I can read. I'm not going to read it all that way. I would like to thank the Hall of Fame committee for selecting me. It's a great honor. There's some other people that I'd like to mention as well, and when you start mentioning names, you're going to forget some people, and I beg your forgiveness for that. But I'd like to first of all, thank Dr. Rice for hiring me in 1970, and the athletic directors, the coaches, the staff, and most of all, the student athletes that I've had the opportunity to work with over 33 years. After all, the student athletes are why we're in this business. A special thanks has to go out to Jerry Allstott, who was the first athletic director at that time, ISUE, to Steve Newton, and to our current athletic director, John Mark Hall. These people were tremendous to work for, and they allowed you to do your job without any interference, and I certainly appreciate that over the years. Any coach would appreciate that. Also like to thank Ray Simmons for his years of work. Did a fantastic job, and you helped me out so much in so many ways from there. Before I go on, I need to introduce my family who are here tonight. Anita, my rock of 46 years, and chief uniform deliverer, and our son Brad, and as he said, he was told what goes on the road stays on the road, and he did a good job of that. He was a good student. And also I'd like to thank my favorite daughter-in-law for being here, Suzanne. Our daughter Brenda, who on many occasions stomped her feet and proclaimed, "I'm not going to any more ball games." That was in the early years when I was coaching baseball. And most of all, I'd like to thank my grandchildren for being here tonight. Emily, Austin, AJ, and Madeline. You mean the world to me. And, you know, you've heard the old saying that the grandkids are a lot better than your own. Well, I think this is a good testament to that. A couple other people I'd like to thank for being here tonight. My oldest brother, Joe, who was my first coach. And incidentally, I did have 32 points, Brad. There's no record to prove it, but I did. Joe and his wife, Rosemary, and my middle brother, Jerry, and his wife, Greta. As I was preparing for this, as most people know, I'm a pretty early riser, and I got to work pretty early in the morning. I think I can probably attribute that back to my brother, Jerry. When I was young growing up, there's just us three boys in the family, and of course, being the youngest, always went to bed early. Well, he got home a little later, in I don't know what time it was, but when he'd get home occasionally, he'd say, "Hey, Jim, get up, get dressed, it's time to go to school." Well, like a nice youngest brother, I'd get up and get dressed, and he said, "Oh, go back to bed, it's only 11 o'clock. So he's probably the one that got me up early that way, from that. And by the way, my oldest brother, he was a pretty good coach of basketball in his day too. He won the state championship in Kansas back in 1962. And there was another guy in that same tournament that he was coaching in that you may have heard of, by the guy by the name of Gene Cady. But my brother was state champion that year back in 1962, so from there. I think I've introduced my whole family now. I think I can probably digress a little bit here and reminisce. I ran into Ron Romaine tonight. Of course, Ron was one of our star pitchers on our early baseball team. We were talking back here. I can't remember whether he pitched 2 or 3 no-hitters. And thank God Ray Simmons was not around then to document what we did. So, Ron, in our eyes, you had 3 no-hitters. I don't know who they were against, but we had 3. That was great that way from there. But, you know, looking back, I think my 33 years at USI was
really an enjoyable career. The people that were here, and it was just great. When I look back, when I came in 1970, there was one building on campus, one. And at that time, I came as assistant basketball coach, going to be the head baseball coach. I was intramural director. I took care of the tickets and all the sports information. In addition to that, I taught at halftime. Needless to say, we worked more than 40 hours a week. But it was a great time. Back then, you know, Jerry Allstott, he was the basketball coach and athletic director, and I did everything that an assistant coach does, and that's everything. You know, the head coach doesn't do anything. The assistant coach does all the work. Right, Rick? and from that, and as Brad alluded to, you know, back in those days, we practiced, he mentioned we practiced at the Armour, we practiced there. We also practiced at Latin School. A lot of you people probably don't even know where Latin School was. We also practiced in the second story of St. Anthony, of St. Agnes Gym, and played games at Robert Stadium. And you were generous in the 50 people that were there, Brad, from that. But those were great years. I can remember the first basketball trip we went on. Jerry drove a sedan, the Ford sedan, and I drove that 8-passenger GMC van, and we took it off. That's the extent. That's how we traveled. Of course, he got the car. I had to drive the van. And over the years, I marvel at the number of miles I probably have driven with athletic teams. And thank God, I didn't have any accidents. Can't say that I wasn't Clint Boyer on a few occasions, but we did get through. And those were great days. Baseball, we played at St. Philip's out there. I think the last year I was baseball coach, we played the field on campus was built, and it was great from that aspect. And then after I got out of baseball and basketball, I thought I was going to take it easy. I was going to just have intramurals. Well, I got rid of that too because Ruth Waller came along, thank God. Ruth, where are you? You're here somewhere, aren't you? Where are you? Ruth, I'll tell you what, we had some good times, didn't we? And you were great, and you still are. Pardon? I think we don't want to talk about that, do we? Fred, I went with Ruth one spring with her softball team down to Florida, and we probably shouldn't go into what happened there. So, going from there, and then I started coaching golf, and really, in golf, I met some really nice people, nice coaches, and I'll talk about those first. Probably one of the nicest guys I ever met that coached golf was Arad McCutcheon. Anybody that knew Arad McCutcheon knew he always had a story. He was always going to be there. He always had some kind of game to play. And it was always interesting when we played them. Of course, he coached golf at UV, and we'd always, back then, we didn't have matches. We would play match, medal. He'd bring everybody he had. I'd bring everybody I had, and we'd have a good time. And him and I would play, and he'd always win. It don't make any difference. If you ever played golf with Arad McCutcheon, you knew he was going to win because he kept score so many ways. I mean, it didn't make any difference. He almost reminds me of Matt Shishley, the way he plays golf, because he don't lose either. But golf was great. Probably one of the nicest guys I ever met as a coach was Harry Gallatin. I don't know if any people remember Harry Gallatin. It was Harry the Horse Gallatin. He had hands that had to be that big. His fingers were so long. Right, Brad? They had the biggest hands of anybody I've ever known. But he was at Southern Illinois Edwardsville, really a nice guy, and helped me out tremendously when I first got started in golf. And I can't thank him enough for that. But it's from there. I would like to thank, I don't know if there's any other baseball players here besides Ron Romaine or not, but I appreciate you coming tonight, Ron. And I'd forgotten that you're on the board of trustees now. So I tell you, it's amazing what those graduates of that baseball team propelled themselves to. That way. I'd like to thank the golfers who are here tonight. Dave McAtee, who was the first individual that qualified for a national tournament. I had everything to do with that. He had nothing to do with it. It was my superior coaching, not that he had superior ability, but that was in 1986, I believe, that he went, and that was the first one there. We were fortunate enough to get another team to the national finals Wasn't the best team we had, but is the best team that time of playing when we started the regional tournament type thing. And of course, Andy, Jeff, Mark, thanks for coming tonight. Mark was one of our two-time academic All-Americans, and we thank you for that. But incidentally, Dave and Matt were my bosses. I worked a couple days a week at Helfrich. Now, Matt, he has to go out on his own. He got the new job out at Cambridge, so congratulations on your new job and good luck in that endeavor from them. I could ramble on a long time here, and I know it's getting late, but I need to close here. But I need to say one thing about, people talk about the academics, and I did have a strong, what should I say, in terms of academics, interest, and tried to propel that and instill that in our young people. And I can still remember, and thank God, a couple of you, listen, Coach heard us there in terms of sitting in the front row and doing those things and getting to class, and I think some of them held over for the people that were there. But, you know, it was interesting how we got involved in the academic advising program here. I don't know, I think it was back in about 1988 or 89, we had a soccer player who dropped below full-time status at the university. Of course, you had to be full-time status to participate in athletics. And nobody was tracking that as such. So at the time, they asked me whether I would do that, and that entailed a lot of other things in terms of registration and making sure they had majors and all of those things of following up. And I really enjoyed that, and I think I probably got more joy out of that than any of the other things that are there that I did in my time there. But in closing, this is what you want me to say, right? In closing, the 33 years at ISUE and USI were most rewarding. I think I came at a good time when we started program, and to see what it is today in terms of the success really makes me happy. Through the 33 years, we did a lot of things. We did the best we could. We worked hard. We had long hours. We had a lot of fun. But thanks again to the Hall of Fame Committee for recognizing my contributions to the USI Athletic and the student athletes. I really appreciate being selected to the USI Hall of Fame. It is a great honor, and I thank you.
I'd like to thank everyone again for coming out tonight, and a few people in our office, Kim Shelton, Jay Newton, Phyllis Oath, and all the people that helped us put this program together tonight, Elizabeth and Ray and Dan. It's a team effort. Again, we can't thank everyone enough for coming out tonight. I hope you enjoyed the program, and we'd like to have all the inductees come forward to get a group picture made as we wrap up again. Thanks again, and have a safe trip home.